They say the front door is where luck enters, but that's only half the story. Because in Feng Shui, energy doesn't appear out of nowhere. It travels. It arrives long before it crosses the threshold. And the space it moves through, your garden path, your walkway, is not just landscaping. It's a message. It tells incoming energy how to behave, whether to rush in or pause, whether to bless or bypass. And the shape of that path could be quietly deciding the quality of energy that enters your life every single day. After 2 decades of consulting for home owners, architects, and even high-profile estate developers, I've seen it again and again. A beautifully designed home with all the right elements still struggling with tension, missed opportunities, or financial blockages. And each time I've found the same overlooked culprit: the path leading to the front door. Too straight, too sharp, too bun. And when energy moves too fast, it doesn't nourish, it disrupts. In today's video, I'll guide you through 3 powerful yet practical Feng Shui design principles that will transform the energy of your garden walkway. From layout and materials to symbolic enhancements, you'll learn how to reshape the journey energy takes into your home, gently, intentionally, and with results you can feel. I'll even share a true story about a billionaire client who rebuilt his entire entrance path based on these very principles and saw a dramatic shift in business fortune within weeks. So stay with me, because the walk to your door isn't just physical, it's energetic. And the moment you align that path, you don't just invite better energy in, you change where your life begins. And before we move forward, if this video resonates so far, I invite you to support this channel with a like, a comment, or a quiet subscription. We're close to reaching 2,000 mindful followers, and every bit of support helps bring this knowledge into more homes and more hearts. Now let's begin by correcting the single biggest mistake I see in walkway design: the straight line. Principle 1: a gently curved pathway is better than a straight one. In Feng Shui, energy is not a concept, it's a current. It behaves not like light, but like breath. It moves, it flows, it takes shape based on the structure it enters. And just like the blood that circulates through our body must flow through open, vital vessels, the qi that nourishes a home must travel through an intentional path. That path in most homes is the walkway, the stretch between the outside world and the sacred threshold of entry. It is the invisible conversation between your home and your life, and too often it is ignored. Many homeowners, eager for symmetry or seduced by modern minimalism, design their front paths with rigid lines, geometrically perfect, linear, direct. These paths seem clean and clear, but in Feng Shui, they're a hidden hazard. A straight walkway might look elegant in a blueprint, but energetically, it's a blade. It slices through your yard, funnels qi at high velocity, and crashes it into your front door like a wave against a wall. In traditional Feng Shui, this is called sha qi, the energy of aggression, force, interruption. Not all motion is helpful. Not all speed is progress. When energy travels too quickly, it skips the opportunity to bless. It doesn't pause to nourish. It doesn't listen to intention. It simply arrives overwhelmed, and in turn, it overwhelms. This is why gentle curves are sacred. A winding path doesn't just serve aesthetic value, it honors the wisdom of nature. Observe a stream, a mountain trail, or the edge of a coastline. Nothing flows in a straight line. The land bends, so the river bends. The trees grow, so the path shifts. This is not disorganization, it is adaptation. The qi in nature moves in spirals, not spikes. It lingers, it dances, it meanders, not because it is lost, but because it understands the power of softness. When we mimic this in our walkways, when we allow curves, rhythm, breath, we are not delaying fortune. We are preparing it, inviting it in slowly, as one might guide a dear friend into a warm room. In my decades of practice, I've walked thousands of entrance paths, and I can tell within seconds, before I see a single interior detail, what kind of energy lives inside. Straight paths often correlate with tension, conflict, burnout. The homeowners may be hardworking, generous, accomplished, but somehow life always feels like effort. There is little rest. There are bursts of success followed by strange delays. People argue more. Money comes and goes unpredictably. Relationships feel tested for no visible reason. The house looks good but feels thin. Curved paths, in contrast, tend to belong to homes with a different atmosphere. Not always extravagant, but stable, warm. People stay longer when they visit. Children sleep deeper. Opportunities feel timed, not rushed. Chi has space to spiral, to wrap the home in layers of support. And this isn't superstition, it's structure, it's spatial psychology. Because the path sets the pace, and when you change the way something enters, you change the way it lands. I remember one home in particular, a sleek modern build perched on a hillside outside Singapore. Owned by a corporate lawyer and his partner, it was a showcase of design, concrete planes, glass walls, an award-winning minimalist garden. Yet despite the perfection, he confessed that coming home felt draining. Not chaotic, but cold. Every evening he felt like he was stepping into a space that mirrored pressure, not peace. He had tried everything, new furniture, lighting adjustments, even meditation, but nothing shifted the heaviness. When I arrived, I understood immediately. The walkway leading from the gated entrance to the front door was a single, unbroken line of concrete, narrow, elevated, devoid of texture, softness, or rhythm. The energy had no room to gather, no invitation to ground. It rushed, it pierced. We redesigned it gently. We softened the angles, widened the entry with staggered stones, and introduced slow-growing native grasses along each side, plants that moved with the wind and curved with the slope. We added a small wooden bench beneath a tree, halfway down the path, not for utility, but to symbolize rest. Within 2 months, he reported something extraordinary. Not only did the house feel warmer, but his sleep improved, his migraines vanished, and he began waking up without dread. A merger that had stalled for nearly a year moved forward again, this time with little resistance. And in his words, the house finally exhaled. The truth is, our environments hold breath patterns. A straight path creates a shallow breath, a rushed inhale, but a curved path creates a deep exhale. It reminds you to slow down. It creates transition. And transition in Feng Shui is everything. No one arrives gracefully when they are pushed. No blessing settles where it is forced. By shaping a path that curves, not sharply, but intuitively, you create a procession of energy, not a shove. And that procession brings with it the quality of what you truly want: stability, gentleness, opportunity that doesn't just arrive, but stays. Now you may ask, how much curve is too much? Should the walkway twist like a garden maze? The answer is simple. Energy responds to intention, not exaggeration. The path should feel effortless, natural, a suggestion, not a spectacle. Too many bends and she becomes confused or stagnant. Too few and it moves too fast. The sweet spot lies in softness, a quiet arc, a rhythm you can feel in your body as you walk, one that allows for a subtle pause, an emotional breath between the world outside and the sanctuary within. If you're unsure how to begin, start with scale. Small adjustments make a big difference. Replace harsh concrete with stone or gravel, materials that allow sound to dissipate and light to play. Introduce visual rhythm with low shrubs, potted plants, or flower beds that draw the eye slowly forward. Consider how the path feels beneath your feet, not just how it looks from above. A home is not just a visual structure. It is an emotional experience. Every step toward the door should feel like a softening, not a sprint. And if budget is a concern, remember, alignment doesn't require luxury. It requires intention. I've seen profound transformations come from simple changes. A slightly widened turn, a cluster of windswept grasses, a shift from gray stone to earthy tone. It's not about more, it's about better flow. When your walkway curves gently, your energy prepares to receive. Your mind quiets. Your nervous system begins to understand that what lies ahead is not a battlefield, but a haven. In Feng Shui, the door may be the mouth of the home, but the path is the voice. It sets the tone. It announces how energy should behave when it arrives. And when that tone is soft, graceful, and welcoming, everything that follows carries that vibration. So if your life has felt rushed, unsettled, or oddly misaligned, pause, step outside, walk your path, listen to how it speaks, and then ask yourself, is this a space that invites fortune or one that rushes past it? Because sometimes the fastest way to attract peace is to slow the way it enters. Principle 2, combine path materials, planting, and lighting thoughtfully. A curved path sets the rhythm, but it is the material beneath your feet, the plants that edge your journey, and the light that guides it, all working in quiet coordination that determine the emotional frequency of the entire approach. In Feng Shui, we understand that energy is not just shaped by space, but by texture, color, and resonance. It absorbs, it reflects, it responds. And your garden path is not simply a trail, it is an energetic composition. The materials you choose, the softness or sharpness of plants, the warmth or coldness of lighting. Each one acts like an instrument in a musical score, and when they are not in harmony, even the most elegant home can feel off-key. Start with the ground. What you step on matters more than you realize. In classical Feng Shui, stone is revered, not just for its durability, but for its energy. It belongs to the earth element. It grounds, it stabilizes. It holds qi close to the soil, allowing energy to build gradually and enter the home with gravity and grace. A stone path doesn't rush you. It asks you to be present. That's why the texture and tone of stone are so important. Avoid glossy, cold slabs that look like they belong in a showroom. Instead, choose matte finishes, natural cuts, and colors in warm or neutral palettes. Beige, sand, soft gray, or light terracotta. These tones reflect a grounded warmth. They say, come in slowly, you're safe here. Gravel, on the other hand, belongs to a slightly different family. It still carries earth energy, but with airiness. It disperses rather than absorbs. So use it with intention, especially in areas where you want to lighten energy. Along the outer edge of a curve, near the base of a light post, as a filler between larger pavers. Gravel also has a sound, a gentle crunch, that reminds the ear of movement and care. In many Japanese gardens, this sound is considered part of the meditative experience. It keeps you connected to each step. Now look around the path, not just beneath it. Plants are not decoration. They are collaborators. They animate the space. They shape how energy bends, gathers, or disperses. And in Feng Shui, the placement of greenery must be as thoughtful as its species. Begin by planting along the inside of each curve. Energy naturally wants to hug the inside edge of a bend. By adding soft-leaf plants there, you guide it gently inward, toward the door, toward the heart. Avoid planting aggressively tall shrubs directly in front of turns or entrances. They block vision and qi. Use greenery to hold space, not dominate it. Opt for species known for their calming and wealth-enhancing properties. Lavender offers both fragrance and softness. Its pale purple hue resonates with spiritual clarity, while its scent soothes the nervous system. Ferns bring lush texture and resilience. They suggest growth, recovery, and quiet abundance. Dwarf bamboo, in its non-invasive form, is a classical symbol of integrity, flexibility, and prosperity. Together, these plants create a border of life that both calms and welcomes. Be mindful, too, of plant maintenance. Dead leaves, broken stems, or overly dry soil all disrupt the frequency you're trying to establish. A walkway should feel alive, not neglected. When a plant dies beside your path and is left untended, it sends a message to energy: pause, decay, hesitate. On the contrary, a thriving, vibrant plant says progress, vitality, yes. And it's not just symbolic, it's psychological. People subconsciously feel more at ease when walking past cared-for greenery. They slow their breath, their heart rate stabilizes, their body prepares to receive. And then there is light, the final but perhaps most transformative layer of walkway design. Light is how energy travels after sunset. It's how your home speaks in the dark. A well-lit path is not only functional, it's invitational. It extends the reach of your home's aura into the night. But here's where many people go wrong. They flood the garden with bright overhead fixtures, believing more light means more safety, more prestige, more visibility. But in Feng Shui, light that is too intense or positioned too high disrupts natural flow. It interrogates energy instead of guiding it. Instead, use low garden lighting, fixtures that are knee height or below. Let the glow come from the ground up, not the sky down. This replicates the effect of a candle-lit table or a glowing lantern. Intimate, directional, quietly powerful. Use warm tones, bulbs between 2700K and 3000K. These tones resemble firelight. They activate yang energy in a gentle way, enough to uplift the entrance without overwhelming the senses. Distribute your lighting evenly. Energy dislikes extremes. A pool of bright light beside a patch of shadow creates emotional confusion. Keep contrast minimal. Alternate lights on either side of the path. This encourages balance and flow, like footsteps in rhythm. If your path bends, place lights just before and just after the turn. This helps energy see where to go next. Avoid placing a light directly in front of the door. That spot belongs to your entrance, to your welcome chai. Let it breathe. You can enhance this energy even further with small, symbolic additions. A low stone lantern, especially placed at the final curve before the front door, acts like an anchor. In traditional Asian design, stone lanterns serve as spiritual sentinels. They hold energy at the gate and signify protection. You don't need a large one. Even a small version tucked beside a plant or near a step carries weight. Wind chimes can also be placed with care, especially at transitional points along the path. Choose a soft tone, not shrill. Metal or bamboo tuned to gentle intervals. The sound should echo subtly when stirred, not shout. Wind chimes help circulate energy. They lift what's too heavy. They announce movement and encourage opportunity to stay in motion. But placement is key, never directly above a seated area or walkway. Hang them at the edge, near an entry post or a nearby tree. When these elements, stone, plant, light, and symbolic accents work together, they create not just a beautiful entrance, but a resonant one. A walkway that holds not just your footsteps, but your intention. One that doesn't just lead you home, but calls in the life you are meant to live inside it. When someone walks up to a home with such a path, they often pause without knowing why. They feel calm, curious, welcomed. They may not know a single thing about Feng Shui, but their body recognizes coherence. And that's the point. When the unseen is aligned, the seen takes care of itself. Principle 3, place energetic enhancers along the pathway. A curved path sets the tone and the materials underfoot shape the texture of arrival, but it is the subtle symbols placed along the way that whisper the deeper invitation. In Feng Shui, we work not just with structure, but with energy, and energy, though invisible, can be guided, tuned, encouraged. It responds to placement, to rhythm, to vibration. And just as a musical instrument becomes more powerful when it is well tuned, your garden path becomes more purposeful when it is enhanced, not with clutter or decoration, but with quiet symbols of harmony. These small energetic enhancers don't shout. They don't draw attention for attention's sake. Instead, they hum beneath the surface, like tuning forks for qi, shaping the unseen into something resonant and supportive. Begin with crystal. Quartz, especially in its natural unpolished form, is one of the oldest and most revered tools for energetic alignment. In ancient China, quartz was used not only in healing and meditation, but also buried beneath the foundations of buildings to stabilize energy across generations. Clear quartz is known as the master amplifier. Rose quartz, its gentler cousin, brings the frequency of compassion and emotional ease. When placed near the beginning of a garden path, either subtly embedded into the edge of a stone border or nestled within a cluster of plants, quartz acts as a purifier. It absorbs static, transforms tension, and smooths the frequency of whatever enters. In Feng Shui terms, this means the energy crossing your threshold has already been softened before it even reaches your door. It's like filtering sunlight through silk, gentler, warmer, more receptive. If you live in a home that has recently experienced stress, illness, or emotional discord, quartz placed at the mouth of your path can serve as a quiet shield, one that protects not with force, but with resonance. From crystals, move to sound. Wind chimes are among the most underestimated tools in energetic design. People often associate them with whimsy or garden decor. But in Feng Shui, a properly tuned wind chime is a circulator of qi. It breaks up stagnation. It wakes up dead corners. And it creates an acoustic signature that says, "This place is alive." The key lies in choosing the right material and placement. Bamboo chimes bring in the wood element. They support growth, flexibility, and gentleness. Metal chimes evoke the metal element, bringing clarity, structure, and boundary. The choice between them depends on what your home needs. Is your space too loose, unfocused, scattered? Use metal. Does it feel too tight, controlled, or emotionally rigid? Use wood. And regardless of type, placement matters. Hang chimes near the inside of a curve or close to lush greenery, not in open wind tunnels. Their sound should be triggered by a breeze, not a storm. And the tone should be soft, melodic, almost meditative, not sharp or tinny. A good wind chime doesn't just make noise, it sings. And when it does, it invites energy to sing with it. If your space allows, consider water. A small fountain, a reflecting bowl, even a shallow basin with a few floating petals. Water is the ultimate Feng Shui activator. It symbolizes abundance, renewal, and constant flow. But it is also sacred. It must be placed mindfully. The southeast direction of your property governs wealth. When viewed from inside your home looking outward, the left-hand side of your entrance corresponds to this direction. If you place a small water feature in that zone, especially one that gently moves rather than splashes, you send a message to the universe. This is a home that welcomes prosperity and allows it to circulate freely. I once worked with a client whose career had plateaued for years. His home was elegant, his efforts sincere, but something felt blocked. When we assessed the entry, the space was stately but static. No movement, no sound, no water. We introduced a low ceramic water bowl, fed by a hidden pump and surrounded by moss. Within 3 months, he landed an international opportunity that aligned perfectly with his values and paid double his previous role. Coincidence? Maybe. But in energy work, results often arrive the moment space is ready to hold them. Even among billionaires, these practices are not superstition, they are structure. Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba and one of the most influential business minds in the world, once hired a Feng Shui master to assess the energy of his estate. The path to his home was originally designed for impact, grand, direct, impressive. But as any Feng Shui consultant would recognize, it lacked rhythm. It was built for guests to be impressed, not for Qi to be nourished. After reworking the path into a gently winding approach, adding riverstones along the sides and spacing soft lighting with a few melodic chimes, he reportedly told his team that the energy felt completely different, not just in aesthetics, but in how he felt entering his home. According to those close to him, he said the shift was not cosmetic, it was cognitive. The home no longer felt like a fortress. It felt like a retreat, a space that sparked ideas, not just strategy. Still, it's important to remember that not every enhancer is helpful. Mirrors, for example, are powerful tools inside a home, but placed along a path, they often backfire. Instead of grounding or welcoming energy, mirrors scatter it. They confuse direction. They reflect Qi away instead of drawing it in. Similarly, large reflective metals, unless part of a symbolic structure, should be used with care. Remember, a garden path is not a performance. It is a procession. Your goal is not to impress, but to invite, to prepare, to align. As you walk your own path, pause and ask yourself, what am I telling energy as it enters? Am I calming it or crowding it? Am I guiding it gently toward the door or rushing it into overwhelm? These enhancers are not decorative accessories. They are messages. They say, this home values clarity. This home welcomes abundance. This home is aware. And when energy hears that, it listens. Viewer reflection. Pause for a moment, not in theory, but in real time. Think of your own home, not just the architectural blueprint, but the lived-in path you take each day, from the street to your door, from the gate to the threshold. Maybe it's a front yard, maybe just a hallway or a corridor leading to your apartment. Maybe it's shared space in a building. Maybe it's your private walkway lined with tiles and routine. Whatever it looks like, what shape does it take? Is the path direct, sharp, or rushed? Or does it allow you to slow down just slightly as you approach your own space? Does it hold any life, greenery, movement, softness? Or is it sterile, cluttered, or overlooked? Are there objects that guide energy with care? Or items that block, scatter, or trap it? These questions are not just about design, they're about rhythm. Because the way you enter your home, the final few feet of arrival, often mirrors how you enter your own life each day, with tension, with intention, with breath, or without it. Most people underestimate the power of these liminal spaces, but they are not gaps. They are transitions. And transitions are where energy either flows or falters. Take a look again, not with a critical eye, but with curiosity. Is there something you could shift? A single plant that softens a corner? A small light to warm the path at dusk? Could you remove something that no longer belongs? A broken pot, a forgotten bin, a pair of shoes turned sideways near the door? Because even the smallest shift, one stone repositioned, one bowl of water placed with care, can change how energy moves. And when energy moves differently, so do we. The decisions become clearer, the breath deeper. The tone of your day, so often set unconsciously the moment you cross your own threshold, begins to realign. Let your entrance, however modest, become a gesture, a quiet way of saying, I care about what I let in. I care about how I show up. I care about the energy I cross into each day. Final. By now you understand, a garden path is never just a path. It is a gesture, a conversation, a silent architect of how fortune, stability, and presence arrive at your door. It holds the invitation your home extends to the world, and perhaps more importantly, the message it sends to your future self. Whether curved or straight, lit or shadowed, barren or blooming, this walkway carries more than just footsteps. It carries mood, momentum, meaning. And in Feng Shui, this means everything. When energy flows gently, prosperity doesn't crash. It arrives quietly, respectfully, in alignment with your readiness. When qi is guided through curves and softened by symbols of life, it nourishes instead of rushing. It gathers before entering, just as guests do at the threshold of a sacred space. But when the path is blocked, rushed, neglected, or too aggressive, energy doesn't settle. It jolts, it scatters. And over time, that friction builds in our health, in our finances, in our relationships, in the way we move through each day without quite knowing what's off. The beauty of Feng Shui is that you don't need vast space or elaborate architecture to begin. You don't need 10 meters of curved stone or a water fountain imported from Kyoto. You just need awareness and a willingness to shape what you can. Even if your garden is a small front step or a hallway shared with neighbors, you can bring intention to that space. You can add warmth. You can place light. You can soften your arrival, and in doing so, soften your life. So take a breath. Step outside your home as if for the first time. Look at the path you take every day, not just with your eyes, but with your presence. What part of it calls for your attention? Is it the flow, the lighting, a missing sense of welcome? I would truly love to hear. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Every comment is a ripple in the collective field we're shaping here together. You may be surprised how many people feel just like you. And if this video gave you a new way of seeing your home, if it shifted something small inside you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Every week on New Day Mindfulness, I share Feng Shui teachings to help you transform your home into a living, breathing ally. A space that supports you, grounds you, awakens what's possible in you. And if this message resonated, please leave a like or share this video with someone who's ready to reshape their path, not just physically, but energetically. Let's reach that first 2,000 subscribers together and create a community where beauty, clarity, and quiet power lead the way. Because your home is not a destination, it's a doorway. And every path deserves to lead to something beautiful.